When did you realize forgiveness wouldn't bring you peace? I used to believe forgiveness was the cure for everything. Every book, every sermon, every inspirational quote painted forgiveness as the final step to healing, the thing that would lighten the load on my shoulders and let me move forward. I clung to that idea like it was law, but the moment I truly forgave my father was the moment I realized peace doesn't always follow forgiveness. My father was a complicated man, or at least that's the word my mother always used when I asked about him, complicated, which when I grew older I realized was just a gentler way of saying angry, broken, and dangerous. He wasn't always terrible. When I was little, he'd sit me on his shoulders at the county fair, buy me cotton candy, and laugh in that booming way that made me feel like the world was safe, but his shadow was longer than his light. There were nights when his temper filled every room of the house, when my mother's voice would go quiet and my sister would crawl into bed with me because the shouting downstairs was too sharp to ignore. The worst memory isn't even one of those loud nights. It was the morning after. My father sat at the kitchen table, his face buried in his hands, whispering, "I'm sorry," over and over again like it was a prayer. I remember standing in the doorway with my backpack, too scared to speak, too hopeful that maybe this time his apology would stick. It never did. When I was 16, he left. Not like a clean break, not like a divorce. He just stopped coming home. For weeks, his boot sat by the door, but he didn't. When I asked my mom, she said, "He's gone and we need to move on." And so we did, or we tried. But I carried him with me into my friendships, into my relationships, into every single room I walked into. I carried this need to fix, to forgive, to believe people could change if you just loved them hard enough. Years passed. I graduated high school, then college. I tried to bury him in the noise of adulthood, jobs, bills, late night coffee runs with friends. But then out of nowhere, he called. It was a summer evening, sticky and warm. My phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize, and when I picked up, his voice filled the silence. Older, raspier, but still him. "It's your dad," he said, as if I could have mistaken it. He wanted to meet. Against my better judgment, I agreed. Part of me thought maybe this was it. Maybe this was the moment when all the scars could finally fade, when forgiveness could finally make me whole. We met at a diner off the highway. He looked smaller than I remembered, like time had folded him in on himself. His hand shook as he stirred his coffee, and he talked about rehab, about regrets, about how he wanted to be in my life again. He kept saying, "I know I messed up, but I've changed. I swear I've changed." And I believed him. Or maybe I just wanted to believe him. So I forgave him. Right there, over chipped mugs of coffee and a half-eaten plate of fries, I let go of years of anger. I told him I forgave him, and I meant it. He cried. I cried. For the first time in years, I walked out of a diner with my father by my side, thinking maybe, just maybe, we could rebuild. But forgiveness didn't bring peace, because forgiveness didn't erase the birthdays he missed, the nights he chose rage over love, the way my sister still flinched at loud voices. Forgiveness didn't give my mom back her laughter, or me back the childhood I'd spent tiptoeing around a storm. Forgiveness didn't erase the ache I carried every time I looked at him and wondered how different life could have been if he had just stayed. For a while, I tried to force it. I kept seeing him, kept answering his calls, kept telling myself, this is what healing looks like. This is what forgiveness does. But the peace never came. All I felt was exhaustion. And then, one night, after another awkward dinner where he spent more time talking about his new girlfriend than asking about my life, I went home and sat in my car in the driveway. The realization hit me so hard it stole my breath. Forgiveness wasn't fixing me. It wasn't even freeing me. Because forgiveness is about the other person. It was about him. About proving to him that he wasn't the monster he feared he was. About giving him a second chance so he could feel redeemed. But peace? Peace was about me. And those two things weren't the same. That was the night I understood I could forgive him 1,000 times over and still never feel whole. Peace wasn't about letting him back into my life. Peace was about letting go of the life I wished I'd had with him. So I stopped trying to make forgiveness carry a weight it wasn't built for. I let myself grieve the father I wanted, instead of pretending the one I had could ever make me feel safe. And for the first time, I slept. That's when I realized forgiveness doesn't always bring peace. Sometimes peace only comes when you stop hoping forgiveness will change the past.